episode 133. What's wrong with Orny Adams? I'll tell you what's wrong with Orny Adams. You know when you go into, you're in a place, you want to use the bathroom, a store, and you go to the bathroom and then there's a code on the door. They're locking up the bathrooms, so now you have to find an employee. And then the employee tells you the code. You always forget the code. So I go up to the employee, I'm like, God. And now they're trying to make them easier for people. Like the lock it's ridiculous. Why even have a lock? So I said to the employee, I said, I act like I'm naive. Do I need a code for the bathroom? And he said, 4321. And I looked at him and I said, I'll still forget it. And now I'm going to say that every time I get the code couldn't be easier. But it doesn't matter how easy they make the codes. You always get to the bathroom and you're like, was it 1, 2, 3, 4? Was it 10, 9, 8, 7 pound? Do I have to hit pound? Do I have to hit star first? And then you can't go back to the employee you just asked. You can't say, what was that code again? It was 1, 2, 3, 4. You idiot. What's wrong with Orny Adams? Here we go. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you to my guest in 132, Jimmy the Fox Clemente. Always a great conversation. And I'll go over some things that we forgot to talk about because, once you start talking to Jimmy the Fox, you end up on this tangent and that tangent. So lots to cover. Orny. Sing it. Adams. Orny. That's me. Well, welcome back, friends. Welcome back, What's Wrongers. It's always fun. I love doing the podcast. Boy, did winter just come out of nowhere here in Los Angeles. I was running the air conditioner on Saturday. Today I'm running the heat. It's pitch dark at 4 p.m. I don't know what's going on. I'm all over the place. But I ran the heater. Now, every time you run the heater for the first time, you're like, please work, please work. The last thing you need is to replace like a heater, or what do they call it, HVAC, one of those systems on the roof. They have to get the crane out and take the thing down. It seems like a big expense. So I just pray. I pray that the heater works. It did work. I pray that it doesn't smell too much like heat for the first time. So, winter just hit us hard. Anyway, I'm going to read a lot of emails on this podcast I got from fans. You know the email. Say it with me. What's wrong at ornyadams.com. Also, if you want to see my stand-up shows, this is really important. Go to ornyadams.com/tour or just ornyadams.com, and then you click on the tour link, and you'll see that next month I'm at the Irvine Improv, December 13th through 15th. Then I'm at the Ice House January 18th. Oh, and I'm going to Orlando, doing a private show the first week of January. February 13th, I just booked this morning. It won't be on the calendar yet. Comedy and Magic Club, the day before Thanksgiving. Valentine's Day. Chicago Improv, I'll be in the basement of the mall again, January 30th through February 1st. And then McCurdy's Comedy Club, Sarasota, March 21, 22, 2025. I cannot believe it's 2025. Are you guys, is everybody getting their intake of turmeric? Where did this spice come out of nowhere? This spice, turmeric, this mustard yellow spice that I've seen it in teas. I've seen it sort of mentioned. Now, everybody's got to have turmeric. These health fads, I've said it before, everything in moderation. That includes plastics. It's okay. You're going to get plastic from your food. I say in moderation. I mean, everybody's so concerned about the plastic water bottles. Anybody concerned about the microwave foods in those plastic containers? Anybody concerned about Ziploc bags? Or hefty bags that you put your food in? Or Tupperware? I mean, we're consuming more plastics than the fish in the ocean. Gotta have turmeric. gotta have turmeric. Everyone's like, yeah, I gotta have turmeric for inflammation. Are you taking turmeric for inflammation? And then oh no, all of a sudden it'll be like, oh no more turmeric. There's a new meme. Turmeric is bad for you. I mean, this started when I moved to Los Angeles. We all had to valerian root to sleep or something. I don't know what it's for. It's these fad, like everybody is looking for the fountain of youth. Everybody thinks they're going to extend their life. I'm telling you, it's happiness. Cut the bullshit. You're being manipulated. Oh, no more turmeric. I saw a meme. Nobody's having turmeric anymore. What happened to acai bowls? What happened to that? Everybody had to have acai because they found acai berries in the Peruvian mountains. Oh, Machu Picchu is surrounded by acai berries. It must have some mythical, medicinal cure for us stupid Westerners. I mean, ginger. I believe in ginger. I believe in blueberries. I believe in an apple a day because it has pectin in the skin. And I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know what pectin does, but I'm just proud that I know there's pectin in the skin of the apple. I believe in moderation. Turmeric. Oh, this world. I figured this out on Halloween, that I think older people hate the younger generation more than they've ever hated a younger generation. I think that's because the younger generation has a greater voice than it's ever had because of the internet. And because we've chosen to listen to them. Why are we listening to young people so much? I mean, tell them to get out of the house and be back at 5 p.m. But because they have a voice, I think they're bullying some of the older people. And now that I just had another birthday, I'm now an older person. And I got to start taking the AARP envelope seriously when it shows up in the mail. That's been coming since my mid-30s. But it's these young kids. We hate them so much. We don't even want to see them on Halloween. We just put the candy outside the door and it's like, here, it's like self-checkout. We don't even care if you take the whole basket. We just don't want to see you in your stupid outfits and your joy. Nobody's answering the door anymore. There's no sense of neighborhood. It's gone. It's like that book I'm reading, been reading forever, on the breakdown of groups, bowling leagues. I think bowling's in the title, but what is it? Anyway, there aren't church groups anymore, or Tupperware groups, or cooking groups. Guys aren't hanging out at the Elks Lodge. And there's no sense of community anymore. And because of that, this world has gone nuts. I don't want to get topical. But, we had an election, and majority of the people feel one way, and a majority of the people feel another way. I don't know how you can have two majorities, but that's what's going on in America right now. We actually have two majorities. But there was an election. And I want to just say this about my country. 'Tis of thee! Which I love. If you look at the old podcast, it used to be a thing that said America back here. Since been replaced by other things. I love America. I've loved this country because I was raised to love this country, because I was told how lucky I was to be in America, that I was allowed to do things that other countries had to fight for. They had to fight. They wanted to vote. They had to risk their lives to vote. They had to fight to vote. There is an equality. I live in a country where, for the most part, there's equality. And you can have a voice, and you can voice your opinions. Can't do that in some countries. They'll shoot you. They will lock you up. You can, if you don't like the leader of this country, You can protest the leader of the country. You can try and run against that part. You can't do that in other countries. They'll kill you. There are some countries where when they oppose the leader, they fall off of buildings mysteriously. Here, you can say whatever you want about the leader. This country, America, or Los Estados Unidos, thank you, Mrs. Schaller, my Spanish teacher, Schaller. I'm going to say this because I love America. We are a bunch of spoiled brats. We're brats. We have everything, and we're still fighting. Still not enough. You ever been in a country where you don't have to even work? And you can have a place to live and food and cable, and I don't know how they survive. But the work ethic in this country, for the most part, is pretty shitty. And I'll tell you what set me off. I was watching a documentary and then I started to read about it, about these kamikaze smugglers of oil from Venezuela to Colombia. So what the deal is, Venezuela is one of the top oil producers in the world, and they have one of the largest oil reserves in the world. And because of that, and I guess they're maybe a communist country, they sell gas to the citizens for about 10 cents a gallon. Then some of these citizens are smuggling over the border. There's a huge border that lines Venezuela and Colombia. And they're smuggling it over the border and selling it on the black market. And they're loading up these cars, which are like moving, missiles full of gas. And they have to pay people off along the way. They have to pay off the military. They have to pay off police. Now, some towns along the route have started to charge like a toll. Okay? And they're risking their lives. And some of these stop points actually shoot. They're risking their lives to smuggle oil from Venezuela to Colombia. Now, are they doing this because they're making a shit ton of money? No, they're doing it because they can't get another job. In America, if you want to work, you can work. We got jobs for you. You want to have a work ethic? You want a sense of purpose? We got jobs for you. But a lot of people think they're too good for the jobs, and they don't want to do it. These people in Venezuela would kill to have some of the job opportunities in this country. The job opportunities that people scoff at. I go anywhere, I see anybody working, and they are on their phones. They don't want to be there. They don't give a shit about the product they sell. There's no pride. There's no doing it right. They don't care. It doesn't look like they want to be there. They just want a paycheck and they want to get home and live their life. And I was raised from a young age to have work ethic. When I went to camp, my parents, I was very fortunate, sent me to camp. But I had to pay for part of camp. I had to pay for the canteen. So I worked all winter shoveling the Dorn's walkway. I think the guy paid me $20. And I'll tell you something, that was so much money. I'd still do it for $20 today. If I'm home over Thanksgiving and it snows, I'm going to shovel the Dorn's walkway, even though they moved. We still joke about it, that I would shovel. Then I had a paper route. Then I was a caddy. Then I worked as a security guard at a mental hospital, which, by the way, there's a picture of that up on the internet, and the Laugh Factory put it on the marquee the other day for my birthday. I do want to thank the Laugh Factory, the Improv chain, and the Comedy and Magic Club on Hermosa Beach all posted on behalf of my birthday. And that level of respect means more to me than pretty much anything. So thank you for doing that. But we live in a country, what was I talking about? Where people, they don't want to be there. And it bums me out. Oh, I had all those jobs. Then when I went to college, I had to pay for part of college By the way, I got a spam email the other day that said, we want to talk to you about your college loan. You could be forgiven. Click on this link. This some sort of fishing expedition to try and, take some of my money, reach into my wallet. And I thought, well, you guys got to research your fish and spam and shit a little bit, because those college days are far behind me. And I paid off my loans early. And I always had to pay for my own books at Emory. Now, this is an interesting story, and this is why you shouldn't give your kids too much money. At Emory, the books were several $100s a semester. In fact, you knew not to take certain classes. You knew biology was a huge book, and it was going to cost over $100. Now, philosophy, which I majored in, it was a little thin paperback, and it was about 95 cents. So I majored in philosophy because I could afford the books. But at the same time, you had to take some of these. You had to take like anthropology. And the books were huge. And if you didn't get there early enough to buy the used book, you were screwed. So what did I do? I went to a school that was so affluent. Everybody in my fraternity house drove the same BMW. I think it was like a 325i, if I remember correctly. And young Orny Adams had a Toyota that I paid for by working at the mental hospital and I worked at Corey's of Lexington as a busboy and a dishwasher. I started out as a dishwasher when I was under 16. I forged papers that said I was 16 so I could work. Young Orny Adams noticed that a lot of kids at Emory had credit cards. I didn't have a credit card, but the credit card went to their parents' accounts. And their parents didn't so if we went out to eat, I'm paying with my paper route money. I'm paying with my working at McLean Hospital as a security guard. First I worked in the commissary. I worked behind the scenes doing prep and stuff like that and working a line, dishing out food. Then I became a cashier, which is a big promotion. Then I became a security guard. And I used that money to pay for my books. And I had a bank card, a debit card. I noticed these kids didn't give a crap. They were buying sweatshirts. Who the hell could afford a sweatshirt in college? From the bookstore? So what I did was, because the parents don't care if it's at Emory's bookstore, the parents thought, oh, look at this charge. They're buying books. So they would buy my books. In fact, a friend named Arp did it. I'm not going to tell you why I called him Arp. But Arp bought my books. And then I gave him, let's say the books were $300, I'd give him $100. And he'd be excited to have $100 because now he can go to PJ's and buy pitchers of beers and wings. And his daddy doesn't know. This is why you don't give kids a credit card in a BMW 325i. Every car I've owned, I've bought, and it's made me feel good. When I bought this house, I bought it on my own. That sense of accomplishment, you can't replace. Poor Arp. Our freshman year, the Rolling Stones were playing at Georgia University, and we got tickets. And he stayed in to study because he was pre-med. And then like a semester later, he dropped out of pre-med. And his biggest regret was not going to see the Rolling Stones. Poked myself with my pen. I've seen the Rolling Stones live with Charlie Watts in the heyday. Steel Wheels Tour, Georgia University, maybe Georgia Tech. My memory doesn't remember. You know, I watch a lot of music. I'm switching topics here. Watch a lot of music. Oh, I finished the Venezuela thing. Anyway, I'm just saying that those people are risking their lives. And if they could have another job, they would do it. And I feel an incredible amount of pain for these people and empathy. And I think the distribution of wealth around the world is ridiculous. And I wish America, I'm not a communist, I'm not a socialist. I just wish there was more opportunity for these people. And I don't know how many yachts people need. I'll just say that. So before my shows, I think you know this, I listen to a lot of music. I put on YouTube I skip through every commercial because I'm too cheap to pay for YouTube Premium. Taking a sip of my juice. Maybe I'll take a sip of coffee and get a little energy. So, I like to see what it feeds me. And it feeds me the algorithm, a lot of videos I've watched before. But the one thing I've noticed is, they have studies. There's a new study out. Eat a pomegranate every day. I have my own study. And in any band, the player or person in the band most likely to be a serial killer is the bass player. When I watch these live shows, by the way, I only watch live music. I'm fascinated by the bass player. They're all incredibly creepy and stylistically out of sync with the rest of the band. It fascinates me. I don't have any friends that are bass players. You know why? They're creepy. Now, if a bass player wants to come on here and defend their profession and their instrument, but I don't know what that is. Why do they all, they panic? Oh, what's that? What's that guy? What's that all about? And I know there's, some famous bass players that, blah, 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 blah. But I'm saying for the most part, notice I said most likely to be a serial killer. I'm not saying the drummer can't be a serial killer. Or even the keyboard player. But lead guitarist, those people have balance. Let's, let me do some cleanup on the Jimmy the Fox Clemente episode 132. Needs to be said. The reason I brought up, now we're going to talk about crows for 3 episodes in a row. In case anybody thinks I'm obsessed with crows and otters. I was obsessed with otters. Now I'm obsessed with the crows. But if you listen to this whole episode, you're going to find out that I'm still obsessed with otters. But the crows, with their 17-year grudge, which I'm trying to turn into some sort of bit, they will remember a face for 17 years, which is why I fear going back to Las Vegas. Because if I drive and stop at that stop at that rest stop, those crows have now passed on to every other crow in that area. Hey, Orny Adams, the comedian, he comes to our stop. We harass him. Well, they will actually dive bomb into people's faces. They will peck at your hair. Now listen to me, peck at your hair, which means they're hitting the scalp. I'm thinking this. Why can't our military? Now, if you live in another country or you're a leader of another country, I ask you right now to please turn the podcast off, because I am now talking directly to the leaders of Los Estados Unidos. Why isn't our military training these crows to hate certain people, like our enemies? We could send them to places that we don't like people, and we could put in their talons. Is that what they're called? The little hands, the little crow hands. There, we could put vials of poison, arsenic, in the talons of the crows. And what we do is, before we send them over there, we teach them how to eat the local food. The bread's going to be different probably in those countries, and the scraps they find on the streets, and some of the local other things that they eat. But we also put on a mask of the person we hate, and we harass the crow a little bit. You know, the guy at the University of Washington, that doctor, what did he do? He put on a mask, and then he walked around with a dead crow, and all the other crows hated him after that. Then we take the crows and we secretly release them in those countries. And we have them find those leaders and people we don't like. In fact, we could have them attack soccer teams that we don't like. Do you see what I'm saying? Start thinking about like all the places where, like, if you were playing a sport, like during the Olympics, during track, we have all the crows attacking other countries. And then we win. We have them attack leaders of countries that we don't like. We have them attack people that are building weapons they're going to use against us. That's what we do. That's what I wanted to talk about with Jim Clemente. Think of all the places that we could have crows attack people because we trained them to hate those people. Oh, in the Olympics, instead of poison, we have little like sleeping pills. And then all of a sudden, all the runners are going around the track and they just start falling asleep. Swimmers start drowning. Yeah, we teach them how to get inside for the indoor pools to get the people too. Oh, this is genius. Okay, if you're listening in other countries, you can welcome back. Welcome back to What's Wrong with Orny Adams. Just doing a little internal country stuff there, that's all. That's all. Oh, this drives me nuts. I can put this computer away. I've noticed this as I'm walking around the city, and it drives me absolutely nuts. This is a classic What's Wrong with Orny Adams. I can't stand when the house number above the mailbox does not line up. Look at this disaster. 2 mailboxes next to each other. The 830 is far to the left. The 830.5, that's the house number. That one's lined up to the beginning of the... It's almost like they put the 830.5 next to the where the mailbox starts, justified left, and then they go to do the 830, like, oh, we can't do that, because then it would say they just run into each other. Then it would look like, oh, the house number's 830.5. Did they think maybe to measure, get smaller letters, or numbers rather? Did they measure it first? Did they do any research? This drives me such nuts, because if you're getting these details wrong, that means that inside the house is a crap show. It's one of those houses where, and this drives me nuts, even in my house, where an electric, the thing that, for the sockets, the electric sockets, those plates, you ever been in a house where it's like not even? You're in a nice house, it's not even? You telling me these guys can't measure and get that right? Or these women can't get this right? That's when I say, well, then they're probably doing shoddy work inside the walls. The wiring probably sucks. Well, this house is for sale. And they can't even get the street numbers right to look good. It gets even worse. Look at this. In the city of Los Angeles, you can pay to have the city spray paint on the curb the numbers, the house number. So look at the house numbers for the 2 mailboxes here. I'm not on. It says 830-830.5. Now this is not even lined up to anything. This is a visual disaster. Disaster. Here's an example of something done sort of right. Here are 2 homes on top of a mailbox. Here's 642 and 644. And not bad. Not centered, but good enough. I'm sure if I measured it, the beginning of the 6 to the left is probably 2 inches, and the 4 to all the way to the right is probably 2 inches. That's done right. It's an ugly mailbox, but or mail chute, it's done right. Here's another one. Look at this. Okay, on the mailboxes, they have letters 2730 faded and 2726. But the city, when they paint on the ground, I don't know who did this. Was this 2 different people? Because they spray painted with the letters, the stencils, 2730, 2725. It's not even the same sort of neighborhood. Like, I don't get what they're thinking. It's ugly. If I saw that, I would call the people and say, you got to come back and fix this. I'm not going to look at this until it fades away. I have one more example of mailbox numbers not being centered, justified, or in the right position. Just an eyesore. Look at this. Marron! 4 mailboxes. It's like 4 mailboxes for 4 houses. Like sometimes, you know what I mean? Like there's like a long driveway that goes up and it services 4 houses that now come off of that driveway. It's like a little private way to their homes. Well, here's 7305, 7295, 7279. Those numbers, none of them make sense to me. There's 4 mailboxes, 3 numbers on the curb. The 3 mailboxes are clumped together. A 4th mailbox is all alone by itself on the buddy bench like a loser. over there playing hacky sack with his friends. And I have no clue, whoever painted on the curb, what those numbers correspond to. I have no idea. In fact, there's one mailbox that says 7301. So where's that on the pavement? 7285 is, and you have to pay as a homeowner. You have to pay like the city $50 to come up here. You'll get a notice every few years. Hey, we're painting the curb. Do you want your mailbox? I'm like, not after seeing how you do those. No, thank you. No, thank you. A lot of mail coming in at what's wrong at ornyadams.com. I'm going to do that in a second, but I do want to say this. Congratulations, Australia. Congratulations for getting it right. In fact, I'm now thinking this might be a good country for me to go reside in someday if I wanted to. Australia proposes world-leading ban on social media for children under 16. Congratulations. I think they should ban it for anybody under 50. The Australian government, I don't even know where I got this from. The Australian government will legislate for a ban on social media for children under 16. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said on Thursday in what it calls a world-leading package of measures that could become law next year. Let's hope it does. It's up in my teeth. What, I got some pulp from that juice in my teeth? Albanese, that's the guy, the Prime Minister dude, in Australia, cited risks to physical and mental health of children from excessive social media use. In particular, the risks to girls from harmful depictions of body image and misogynistic content aimed at boys. Quote, if you're a 14-year-old kid getting this stuff at a time where you're going through life changes and challenges and maturing, it can be really difficult. I got news for you. Difficult for me. And I'm nearly fully formed and mature. It can be really difficult time, and what we're doing is listening and then acting. A number of countries have already vowed to curb social media use by children through legislation, although Australia's policy is one of the most stringent. Australia's other world proposals are the highest age limit set by any country. France is 15. I'm telling you, this is great. Keep these kids off of social media. And there'll be no exemptions for children who have parental consent. That's right, your parents can't override this. You don't like it, get out of Australia. That's what they're saying. The Digital Industry Group, a representative body which includes Meta, TikTok, X, and Alphabet's Google as members, said the measures could encourage young people to explore darker, unregulated parts of the internet while cutting their access to support networks. I got to tell you something. You guys, your little group represents a lot of the dark sides of the internet. The internet's pretty dark already. Rather than blocking access through bans, we need to take a balanced approach to create age-appropriate spaces. Bullshit. We've given you that opportunity. You're not doing it. Because all you care about are clicks, 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 and keeping people engaged. And you do that through, body image content that makes women not feel as good, and it's unrealistic. It's unrealistic for me. These images. And, something's got to be done to protect young people. Even though we hate you and don't want to see you at Halloween with candy, you need to be protected. And the internet is just, it's so new and so, just the Wild West. And I don't know what the solution is. Cat's out of the bag. But these kids need to be protected from, I've said it before. When I was a kid, I was picked on in school, but I was at school. When I got home, I was safe. There wasn't the internet. They didn't come in to my house and start harassing me and bullying me via the internet and social media. Social media is really hard to understand. I can tell you because when I was in my first big project and I received some criticism, it was all in the newspapers. It was in every newspaper. But what it wasn't in was social media. And if I wanted to avoid it, I could. And for the most part, I did. And I clearly had no idea. But I also remember, I was 30 at the time. I wasn't equipped to handle that. I am now, but I wasn't. And so if at 30, I couldn't handle it, how can these kids at 16 handle it? So good job, Australia. Congratulations. For me, I like to surround myself by positivity. And I'll read you some positivity right now. These are some fan emails. Where are my little glasses? Now that I'm older, I don't care. Yeah, I wear reading glasses. Yeah, 1.5, I'm going to go up to 1.75. Yeah, they're dirty, but who cares? I can still see through them. Boy, reading expiration dates is the hardest thing to do as you get older. They hide it. The format's different. The date format's always different. You can't see it. You have to sit there. And so I don't know how more old people aren't dying from food poison. How are they not eating expired food? That's what I want to know. Well, the viewer mail, if I can find where this is, there was a lot of pushback from me saying that all my fans are old. So, let me read some of the emails. This is from Nikki W. Hi, Orny. I listen to your podcast on Spotify. I usually have it on when I pick up my 15-year-old grandson from school. Okay, so we know she's old. I'll notice him laughing. On your podcast 131, you were saying your fans are older. Kind of like you, Nikki. I think. Just know a younger generation are listening, and it's not just 80-year-olds on the bus with small bottles of alcohol. That's a reference to the people that came to see me from Sarasota. They got in a little minibus and made their own little nips of alcohol, and they came to see me in Port Charlotte, Florida. She says, Nikki continues, I have watched your stand-up many times, and I listen to your podcast on daily walks. You make me realize what bugs you also resonates with many of us. Does it resonate with the 15-year-old, or is he just laughing at the old guy sitting alone in a Shasta trailer, yelling? You make me realize, okay, I already said that. I appreciate your humor and whining. Thank you, Nikki. Best regards to your fan, Nikki. She's talking about what happened was, 2 episodes ago, an older person said, hey, I love your stand-up, and when I watch your podcast, you sound whiny. Why can't your podcast be as funny as your stand-up? And I say, it takes years to write stand-up, and I'm whiny. I'm a whiny person. And when you're alone and you're not getting any feedback from anything, sometimes you sound whiny. And sometimes in life, you should be whiny. But at other times, you should be grateful that you're not in Venezuela smuggling gas to Colombia on a kamikaze trip, where sometimes those cars get into accidents and explode. If you saw these cars, they're old, beat-up cars, just lugging gasoline. It's so dangerous. Okay, another pushback on the old. This one's from Instagram. And by the way, the email is what'swrong@ornyadams.com or Instagram. And I do want to say this. Thank you, younger listeners, too. Love the older listeners. Love the younger listeners. Thank you. Continue to let me know you're listening. Kayla says, I just recently listened to your podcast where you mentioned only 90-year-olds listen and reach out to you. My husband and I saw you in 2019 at the American Comedy Club in San Diego, and we laughed from the moment we sat until we left. We believe you are, all caps, the best stand-up comedian, and it isn't even close. We've seen some of the big names like Bing, 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 Bing. And you are at the top of the list. How about that? Maybe I should tell you some of these names. Like, Kayla continues. I still have my sustainable comedy shirt So you do have some younger fans. And then we took, she posted a picture that we took together. And as excited as I was about this email, all I could think was, I wish I still looked as good as I did in 2019. But something called the pandemic and age has ruined my face. Putting my glasses on for this one. This is from Wolf. This is a fan that was a Teen Wolf fan. Probably calls herself Wolf because of that. And then saw me in Port Charlotte a couple of weeks ago. She wrote, "Happy birthday, Orny Adams. First of all, I'll say this. Being a fan of both your comedy and your work on Teen Wolf is like being able to enjoy the perfect mix of raw humor and unexpected wisdom." Yeah, believe me, the wisdom's unexpected to me too. As Coach Bobby Finstock, it's not every day you get a coach who's half life coach, half sarcastic stand-up, and all heart. Even if that makes me feel good about the heart. Even if it doesn't always show it. The one-liners you delivered as Finstock, that was my character in Teen Wolf, were nothing short of legendary, and I think everyone who watched Teen Wolf is grateful for the way you made us laugh and at times reflect on life's absurdities. Well, I have to give credit to the writers of Teen Wolf for a lot of that. Finstock's bizarre mix of tough love, total disinterest, well, I wasn't interested. That wasn't made up. And surprisingly effective life advice will always hold a special place in our hearts. Well, that's nice. But beyond Teen Wolf, your stand-up is a force of its own. There's a raw, unfiltered honesty in your comedy that makes every bit feel like a personal conversation. Oh, that's what I'm going for. That's nice. It comes through. By the way, this is a younger fan. One filled with self-deprecation, sharp observations, and a depth that is rare to find in the comedy world. You've built a career on being unapologetically you. See, I don't see that. I feel like I'm safe, but okay. And that's something not everyone can pull off. Your shows are a reflection of a guy. Well, I kind of like it that I'm unapologetic now that I think about it. Something that not everyone can pull off. Your shows are a reflection of a guy who's got a lot to say and isn't afraid to say it. I do have a lot to say. And I'm not that edgy, so I'm not afraid to say it. But I love all these compliments. Now let's get on to the podcast, she says. What's wrong with Orny Adams? It's a perfect blend of humor and raw honesty. Well, that's a lot different than that older person that said that I was whiny. Let's see if Wolf calls me whiny. The way you break down your own life and the things that bother you while keeping everything so open and authentic is a real gift. Your ability to let people into your world with all its messiness and contradictions while still making them laugh is an art form. It's the same quality that makes you such a great stand-up comedian. You're real, and that authenticity resonates with those who listen. So on your birthday, I just want to say thank you. And she continues, and I'll tell you something. She calls herself a super fan. I'd call you a super fan too. I didn't realize that you had connected so much to my show. When I talked to you afterwards, I was at the merch table and she came up and bought some merchandise. And I was just, frankly, trying to get her to come see me in Sarasota too. But I didn't realize that I resonated so much. And, you know, I don't read this because I'm insecure. I'm not reading you people saying glowing things. It makes me feel good. And it reminds me why I'm out there. Because, you know, you have to understand, I don't want to get whiny, but, you know, I'm a guy that does everything on my own. When I'm done with this podcast, I shut off all 3 cameras. I take the SD cards, I put it into a computer. I upload the audio out of here, out of this Rodecaster, and I send it to Audio, the engineer who works on this podcast. And then I start editing the video. I do everything, every frame I do. Everything in life. I don't have an agent. I don't have a manager. I'm doing it all my own. And, you know, I haven't achieved what I wanted to achieve or suspected I would achieve with stand-up in regards to, you know, the size venues that I'm playing and audience sizes and, you know, name recognition. I have a kitschy, really cool fan base that is so supportive that they've given me a great lifestyle. And I can't thank you guys enough for that. But I'm in a business that measures you by how many tickets you sell. So, you know, there's a chain of comedy clubs that really hasn't offered me any dates for next year. And that's probably because, you know, they don't think I can sell as much as whatever's hot on TikTok or Instagram that week. So I'm not reading this. I'm telling you because I'm insecure and I want you to go, yeah, I agree. I'm reading it because I've made a connection with a person. I think that's important. And I really appreciate Wolf taking the time to email me that. And again, the email is what'swrong@ornyadams.com. This is from Dan, who I just texted back. emailed back and I said, hey, got your email. Thanks, and hope to see you in Sarasota. And he's going to be there. He saw me in Port Charlotte. He said, last night, the dentistry jokes were hilarious. Probably the best of the set. Let me just clear my throat. That was the only night, I think, in Port Charlotte I did those jokes. Maybe I did it one other show, but it really hit. And stand-up is fascinating because you just can't tell when something hits and something doesn't hit. Like that really hit on those shows better than it's ever hit, that one show that Dan was at. And I'm up there thinking, geez, I wish I was taping the special tonight just for these jokes. And so jokes hit depending on where you place them, how it comes up. Like it's sort of, being at a dentist came up organically that night. I don't do it often because I don't think it's, I think it's an easy topic. And I think that I have more important things I'd rather get to on most shows, but sometimes I need a break and I want to do something easy. So Dan says the dentistry jokes were hilarious, probably the best of the set. Lady in the back of me was laughing and crying simultaneously, as were others. The calling out of the tooth numbers was well executed. Have fun tonight. Yeah, thanks, dude. Thanks, Dan. I said, say hi to you on the podcast, and he said, I appreciate that. Yeah, comedy's interesting. That's why you have to see a live show. If you came to see or watch one of my specials, it's like every one of those jokes you're watching on the special hit differently at different times, depending on what was going on in the world. Like if you did a show in America the day before the election and then did the same show the day after the election, you're going to get a different reaction. It evokes. There's a whole, what is the community in front of you, the people in the comedy club or the theater or whatever venue you're playing, what have they experienced together that day? Did they all have an earthquake that day? Was there did one country invade another country? Like what happened? And that's part of it. And placement of jokes and cadence. It's the way you structure a routine. Everything just really varies. This is from Jerome, Master Orny. Oh, like where this is going already. Thank you for showing us that as all the great comics fade away, one rises even above the previous. That is you, sir. Well, I didn't see that coming. Wow. Thank you. Thank you, Jerome. At 73, of course he's 73. Actually, that's young for my audience. I have been blessed with what most people would not see in 10 lifetimes in humor. Humor when I lived in the UK. It spells humor wrong. Humour. Humor has been critical to making life wonderful. However, it is not just your great comedy and delivery. It is the enjoyment the podcast brings as well. I know you're busy, so I'll get on over to set up my Patreon with you. Best always, Bill. It says Jerome. Is Bill a nickname for Jerome? Oh, he's in the country now because it's good. Dude, thank you. Thank you. I'm glad that my comedy connects with you. That's all I could ask. Hello, another email. First of all, I'm Sophie. She's in her 30s. She lives in France, and she writes a very personal email. And I should get back to her personally. I shouldn't talk about this one. Here's Dan. I was just listening to your comments on a recent podcast, Read the Evolution of Photography Over the Past 25 Years. Yeah, this starts to turn into like a lesson. I've become Professor Orny over here. I was glued to it because those specific changes, although significant, to say the least, are rarely pointed out. He talks about how he was in journalism, how he went to college in Boston, how he got a BFA in photography, how he stopped taking pictures once it went digital. A lot of people abandoned because digital is harsh. It doesn't have the edge and the beauty of real photography. Anyway, he said recently he saw a black and white 35 millimeter camera being sold on Amazon, and he might get back into it. But what I'm saying is this guy... it's just interesting how every topic on every podcast just sort of connects with different people. And I appreciate all the feedback because I'm not doing this to brag, but it does remind me, the fact that people are this engaged, it does remind me that there is an importance to what I'm doing beyond how many tickets am I selling. which is how I'm valued for the most part, or feel that I'm valued. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But comedy is my friend. Comedy is my friend. Comedy will always be my friend. Comedy will always be there for me until I can't write anymore. And on weeks when stuff sucks, I call the comedy clubs and I'm like, can I get on the schedule? And they put me on the schedule. I'll be at the Laugh Factory tonight. I'll be at the Laugh Factory in the Improv on Saturday night. I could work in between if I wanted to. I'm doing a benefit on Sunday night here in Los Angeles. And so I'm very fortunate. In fact, Robin Williams used to shoot films, and after he was wrapped for the night, and I don't know if you know how exhausting it is to shoot films, he would go to the comedy clubs to perform because it's a release. And I'm just so lucky I found that, and I'm lucky I have it. And I think I'd be really bored in life because if I didn't have a show tonight, I'd be sitting home alone because I'm a loner. But comedy is my friend. In the audience that night, you're my friends. So I appreciate it. Just quickly, something I've noticed about Los Angeles, and then we'll get into the final story, which, of course, involves an otter. Where is this? So I noticed when I was walking around Venice, Abbot Kinney, that a lot of the stores have for lease in them. Like this, all of a sudden, there's just this massive turnover. Stores are going away. Now, is it because people have left Los Angeles? Is it because of inflation? Is it because people aren't spending as much? Is it because Abbot Kinney is just done? But then I saw this articles in the Wall Street Journal about the Promenade. I believe it's the Wall Street Journal. The Promenade in Santa Monica, as it is internationally known, is going through the same thing. There's a lot of for lease. There's just stores leaving. And when it was built, I think in the 50s, it was a critical economic lifeline to the area as one of the United States' early outdoor malls with nods to many famous and historic European esplanades. The 3rd Street Promenade was designed as a natural landing spot for tourists. In the past years, the promenade also featured a bevy of mom and pop businesses mixed with national retailers. It used to be the place, and now it's deserted. It's sad. It used to be the place that Nike would release products to see how it was taken. H&M. These places would see. The trendsetters shop there. It was a place where there was a Barnes & Noble. And still was until their lease went so high that they couldn't afford it. But this is an area, if you haven't been there, it's all closed off. It's all walking. It's really cool. It's a block and a half from the beach. So you can go to the beach if you want. You can go to the Santa Monica Pier and look at the Ferris wheel and eat shitty fried foods. And then you can come up and there are restaurants. And it was really mom and poppy, I guess, early on. And then at the end of the promenade, they built a mall. And then in the mall, it all of a sudden became too much. But there used to be street performers. Watch that Playing for Change. There would be people there playing. Now there's no street musicians. There's no foot traffic. There's just for lease signs. And there were so many retailers in there, West Elm, I think, Gap, all the usual the Urban Outfitters that the mom and pops couldn't afford. This is what's wrong with chains. They push out the mom and pops. They push out the flair. Now there's a pickleball. There's so much space available that somebody's running a pop-up pickleball indoor pickleball courts. It's Santa Monica. Oh, what has happened? This is what happened. According to the article, ultimately, a confluence of factors, some intentional, others unavoidable, led to the recent decline of the 3rd Street Promenade. In some ways, the downfall isn't that dissimilar to the decline of other areas like Melrose Avenue. Yeah, what happened there? When I moved here, that was it. That was vibrant. That was the place to be. Now it's like you have to look around. Am I going to get mugged? There's a lot of crime on either side of Melrose Ave. The difference is that the promenade is a car-free area in Southern California that's decently accessible via public transportation. It's also blessed with incredible access to the nearby ocean. And then it's designed by Charles Luckman and Associates. They're the ones who did the theme building in LAX, the Disneyland Hotel, Madison Square Garden, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, also homelessness touching every part of Los Angeles County has also impacted 3rd Street Promenade. Especially in recent years, from 2022 to 2023, the number of people experiencing homelessness in the city of Santa Monica has increased by 15%. Wow. People say to me, I'll say, this city's got to do something about the homelessness. Then they say to me, well, what should they do? Like I have the answers. And I say, I don't know, but I pay taxes, so they need to figure it out. That's what I believe. I mean, I live in an area where now people are starting to sleep in their cars. Somehow that's legal. And sure, I've got compassion for people who, wait a minute, did the article say homelessness? Isn't it unhoused? Uh-oh. Cancel whatever publication that came from. I call them homeless because calling them unhoused does nothing. It's just a way to try and correct older people or reframe a discussion. They're homeless. This is why the country's so screwed up. The focus is all wrong. Let's focus on some fun stuff and bring it home. I mean, what a success. What's wrong with doing Adams 133 is? And thank you to that guy, Bill, or whatever you did, Jerome, which I guess is a long name for Bill. Join my Patreon. Thank you. If you want to see this video, it will be on Patreon first, audio free, and then I'm 4 episodes behind. So do a little math. If this is 133, I'm 4 episodes behind on YouTube, which means 129 will be uploaded to YouTube on Thursday when this is released. Starting to release these on most Thursdays. Although what's going to happen? Thanksgiving's coming up, and I'm going home for a couple of days. What happens to the podcast? Can you people live without a podcast every week? Do I pre-record? I don't like to pre-record because I don't enjoy releasing something that's been done a couple of weeks ago. It even feels weird on YouTube to release 129 when I'm really on 133. But at least the audio is out there. Here's something else that's got to be fixed, and I'm really hoping that AI does something about this. When you're watching a show, God forbid you need subtitles, why does a subtitle come up before the person says the words? Why can't it match? It does on social media. I see 12-year-olds who soon will be banned from posting on TikTok and stuff like that in Australia, 16 in France. I'm 16 in Australia, 15 in France. I'm campaigning for 50. You have to be over 50 to be on social media. Why does the subtitle not match the words? It gives it away because I'm reading and I'm like, oh, he's about to say this. It screws it up. I watched a documentary on Nat Geo here in America called Billy and Molly, an Otter love story. A love story, Otter this world, is what they should have called it. So this guy, Billy, lives in Ireland, I believe. Watched the whole thing. I still don't know where he lives, but he spoke like one of those guys from Ireland. That's why we had the subtitles on. Irish people can't. You have to. It's one of those few languages where they're speaking the same language as you, but you have to subtitle it. So I noticed with the subtitles, it was driving me nuts. It was like it'd come up way before Billy said what he was going to say, and then there's like descriptions in the subtitles for hard of hearing people. So Billy's talking, and they're like sheep bleating. Because in the background there's a sheep. Like, I don't know how important that is. Seagulls cawing. So the premise of this documentary, which I recommend everybody watch, but I'm only discussing this. I really had great deliberations with myself about, there's somebody who has to let you know they have a motorcycle. I had great deliberations with myself about the responsibility of discussing this documentary because part of me feels like, I'm in the camp of otters are not safe. that I've seen enough otters attacking my fellow humans that I say approach with caution. Now, this guy Billy goes out to the dock one day and he sees a baby otter trying to open a clamshell, and he videotapes it. And he calls the otter Molly. I mean, what a dumb name for an Molly. I mean, it is the name should be like Audie, something like that. Flip floppy, whatever it is. Clammy, because he was eating clam. Like, I don't like giving these animals human names. Molly was probably some chick that he dated at some point. Anyway, this guy's married, and he gives more attention to Molly. Molly starts coming every day to get food, because that's what happens. If you feed animals in the wild, they keep showing up. Remember the lady who fed raccoons? Discussed that on a recent episode. Then one day, hundreds of raccoons showed up. That's what happens when you F with the ecosystem. Molly's supposed to get her own food. Oh, he suspects Molly's mom was killed because he saw a dead otter on the road at one point, had been hit by a car. Anyway, he starts sort of raising Molly, becomes so attached to Molly, builds a little home for Molly. I'm not kidding. A replica like of their home. He built a home for Molly to go in and out of and put a camera in there. Meanwhile, they're documenting all this. I don't know how they're documenting this. The crew must have lived with them. They got such great footage. And he realizes one day that he's got to teach Molly to get her own food. I also am questioning how they even knew this was a female otter. Anyway, he then takes Molly out and shows Molly how to go through. He watches what other otters are eating. Then he brings Molly to that area and shows Molly, here, get these little fish over here. But, he's like hand feeding Molly. Molly falls in love at some point. Molly meets a guy. So he realizes, hey, the only way I am going to do a service to Molly is to stop feeding this otter. Well, guess what happens? The otter stops showing up because this guy doesn't understand. This otter doesn't love him. He has fallen in love with this otter to the point where it feels like in the documentary, he's ignoring the dog, ignoring his wife. He just works and then spends all day trying to talk to Molly. Well, he stops feeding Molly. Molly stops showing up. And he realizes how transactional their relationship was. I've felt this in dating many times. So Molly stops showing up. And then Molly one day just shows up again in her little home. And she's pregnant. And you watch the birth. So now the guy feels like he's becoming a grandparent. Oh, that's the other thing. They couldn't have kids. So he treated this like it was one of his kids. Now, this whole thing is nuts. And you're just sitting there going, this should be a movie. And it sort of reminded me of Flipper. They call him Flipper, Flipper, king of the ocean. Remember that show? Dee. That was on from 1964 to 1967, 3 seasons. It's the Ricks family. They live in Florida. The kids were Bud and Sandy. And Lassie, they were friends with a dolphin. And it was like the aquatic version of Lassie. In the father, I hope I'm not divulging information that I shouldn't, but my homosexual neighbor had a crush on the father. Thought he was the perfect man. In fact, he said, I knew I was gay when I was 8 years old and saw that guy. Now, how many people look at me and think, wow, I'm gay? I didn't realize I was gay until I saw Orny Adams and all his hotness. The Ricks family pet dolphin. Flipper is an intelligent, bottlenose dolphin who helps the family protect the park and enforce regulations. This is the best part. Flipper was portrayed at first by a female dolphin named Susie. Now, this would be a big discussion. The female of the dolphin playing a man. It's misappropriation. I don't like that. Now, Flipper is the perfect name. Do you see what I'm saying? Molly is a drug, and they're naming the otter, which is a dangerous animal. I can't say enough that if you see an otter, I'm looking into the camera, everybody. If you're out and you see an otter, don't watch this documentary and think it's okay to approach the otter. They may attack you. They're fast, and when they attack like they have rabies. They don't let up, and you don't want to. Some of them have rabies. You don't want to get rabies. Ask Jim Clemente. Jimmy the Fox Clemente got bit by a fox. He had to get a round of rabies shots. You don't want it. I'm telling you, don't make friends with otters. You can make friends with dogs. Get a dog. Maybe other animals. But otters will attack you, much like the crow. Now, we haven't done the research. I'm hoping it comes out. How long does an otter remember your face for? Think about that. Think about that. Remember, I was in Sedona. This is how the otter thing all happened. I was in Sedona. I went into a creek. They said, oh, you might even see otters in there. I said, this is Sedona. There's no Wi-Fi in this area because it's Sedona and they're hippies. Treat me like I'm a 16-year-old kid in Australia in Sedona. Don't let me have Wi-Fi access. So I'm on the creek side, and they said, hey, go in, have fun. You might see otters. I go, do they attack humans? I don't really know anything about otters. And they said, no, otters are safe. I didn't have internet to research this, so I trusted the hippies. Then I get home, and I research it because I want to talk about it on the podcast. Remember, I did a podcast called Otter the Ordinary? And I found out that they're dangerous. And people have since shared with me many instances of otter attacks on humans. So, I encourage you, I'm begging you, I'm putting a disclaimer, I'm discussing this documentary about this guy that befriends an otter, but be careful. I also don't recommend befriending a dolphin. But the dolphin was, Flipper was first played by a dolphin named Susie, though mostly by another female, Kathy. And occasionally by another female named Patty and Scotty. Kind of male, the female name is Scotty. And then Squirt. Okay, now Squirt's a good name, right? Because it's got that little hole and it squirts. So I like that. I like Flipper. Like nobody would watch a show called Kathy, right? They call her Kathy, Kathy, king of the ocean. Flipper's a good name. Let's name these animals by their traits and let them know. Like when this guy's talking about his kid Molly, you think he's talking about a kid. He's really talking about an otter. Now, why they use female dolphins were chosen because they are less aggressive than males, and their skins, unlike the skin of male dolphins, are usually free from scars and other disfigurations acquired in altercations with other dolphins. That's a lot of animals in the wild get these scars because they're trying to get laid. They got to fight other animals. That's pretty much like humans at the bars at 2 o'clock in the morning, but they have all these scars. Then it goes on to tell you that, well, where's page 5? Page 5, everybody. The 5 dolphins that played Flipper, this is a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff, okay? A lot of you guys just watch Flipper, and you go, oh, it's just one dolphin. No, it took 5 dolphins to play Flipper. In fact, a lot of people don't know, it took 5 people to play Coach Finstock. It wasn't just me. There was Susie and Kathy and Squirt. They all played me. The 5 dolphins performed all of Flipper's scenes except the famous tail walk. Remember that? He walked on the water on his tail. Now, why not call one of these guys Taily? Taily. A trick they were unable to master completely. A male dolphin named Clown, well, that's a little condescending, was brought in for the scenes involving the tail walk. And it just goes to show you that sometimes it takes a male dolphin to get the job done. That's what I'm saying right there. The famous voice of Flipper was actually doctored. It was a song of the kookaburra bird. Oh, boy. So you learn everything, learn all this stuff. I never saw Flipper. I never saw Flipper live. I saw it in reruns. It was much like the Brady Bunch. The Brady Bunch was off the air when I got into it and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah. Just be careful of the otters. Just be careful of all these animals in the wild. I mean, I beg you to do a little research before you try and befriend an otter. Although you befriend a weird animal like this. Let me tell you, this guy, he was working a factory job. Now, I bet the guy will sell the rights, probably got money for the documentary. Now he'll sell the rights to a movie, all because he's friends with Molly. Now, if I wrote the movie, I would rename Molly Otter or something like that, something cute. So keep that into consideration too. There probably is a way to monetize your friendship with a bizarre animal. I mean, this world is absolutely gone bizarre. And I'm just trying to get through the day. I'm trying to enjoy it. I thank everyone that comes to see my shows. My tour dates up at ornyadams.com/tour. And I told you where I'm going to be. Irvine next, or tonight I'll be at the Laugh Factory and then the Improv. But thank you to everyone coming to the shows. And thank you. I'm saying this sincerely as I've entered another year of my life and I'm getting old. And it looks like I screwed up. It looks like this is where it ends for me. Anyway, I feel an extreme amount of stress as I get older to the final push, as I call it. Even though I've got a friend, Jack, who's 100 years old, who's in panic mode about his career. Nuts. If I'm 100, I'm done with my career. I'm looking forward to the year ahead, and I thank everybody that supports me, that writes reviews of this podcast, that shares their feelings at what'swrong@ornyadams.com, what'swrong@ornyadams.com, that is still going on YouTube and watching all my videos and stuff like that. Without you guys, I really, truly would be living in this Shasta trailer. Thank you, everybody. Thank you to Audio for mastering, bringing this down, for mastering the audio of this episode. And, thank you for all your suggestions and thoughts and all that stuff. When I was younger, I didn't appreciate all the people that supported me as much as I do now. And maybe that's just getting older. So I'm retroactively thanking everybody too. And as I get older, really, what's left? I'm at the point now where I just want to feel respected, loved, make some money, sell out theaters or stadiums, and be able to remember the bathroom code. That's all. I want to be able to remember it's 1, 2, 3, 4. One time, the bathroom code was the same as my 6-digit code for my bank card. And I go, I got to get better security. If my bank card is the same same security code as this In-N-Out burger, I got to up my security game. Oh, thanks. And have a good week. And share this.